Across the history of organized crime in America, a select group of underworld figures managed to evade lengthy prison sentences despite their immense power and notorious reputations. Masterminds of gambling, narcotics, and extortion, they amassed vast fortunes while employing ruthless tactics to silence rivals and deter informants. Through intimidation, bribery, and elaborate cover-ups, these individuals consistently outsmarted investigators who struggled to bring them to justice. Their stories reveal a hidden world in which cunning, corruption, and secrecy allowed them to slip through legal loopholes time and time again. Some lived quietly into old age, dying peaceful deaths free from iron bars, while others vanished entirely, leaving authorities with unanswered questions. These figures have personified the dark allure of getting away with serious crimes that would otherwise result in spending the majority of one's life imprisoned. Arnold Rothstein, born in 1882, built a gambling empire that stretched from New York's racetracks to underground card parlors, becoming a legendary figure in organized crime. Nicknamed the Brain, he allegedly financed the 1919 Black Sox scandal, orchestrating bribes that fixed the World Series. Despite widespread suspicion, he escaped serious punishment due to lack of concrete proof and his impeccable underworld connections. Rothstein's worst crimes included extensive loan sharking operations and orchestrating high-stakes gambling rings that corrupted athletes and officials. Law enforcement found him elusive, as witnesses feared retribution or enjoyed his payouts. His ability to launder money and cultivate political allies kept him out of prison for several years. However, on November 4, 1928, he was fatally shot in Manhattan over unpaid debts. Rothstein died before facing major legal repercussions and further judicial condemnation. Anastasia, born in 1902, was notorious for co-founding the savage enforcement arm known as Murder, Inc. Nicknamed the Mad Hatter, he allegedly oversaw dozens of contract killings, terrifying underworld rivals. Despite arrests, Anastasia avoided major convictions, often thanks to missing witnesses or recanting testimonies. Rising to boss of the future Gambino family, he commanded dockworker rackets and gambling dens across New York. His worst crimes involved orchestrating executions with merciless precision, ensuring fear reigned throughout his territory. Law enforcement struggled to lock him away, as he silenced potential informants and thrived on intimidation. Anastasia's downfall came on October 25, 1957, when gunmen ambushed him in a Manhattan barbershop. Though killed violently, he never served significant prison time, having navigated the justice system through sheer and absolute ruthlessness and cunning. Paul Castellano, born in 1915, ascended to head the Gambino family after Carlo Gambino's death in 1976, emphasizing business ventures over street violence. Nicknamed Big Paul, he directed lucrative construction racketeering and white-collar scams, amassing enormous wealth. Authorities indicted him for various offenses, including extortion and labor corruption, yet he leveraged high-profile attorneys and intimidated witnesses to avoid meaningful jail time. Castellano's worst crimes involved greenlighting murders of disloyal subordinates and exploiting union power for profit. He also maintained a lavish lifestyle on Staten Island, reinforcing his aura of invincibility and intimidation. Law enforcement surveillance tapes threatened to topple him, but he was gunned down outside Sparks Steakhouse on December 16, 1985, before a verdict could arrive. Thus he died a free man, never serving significant years behind bars. Angelo Bruno, born in 1910, presided over the Philadelphia crime family with an outwardly gentle approach, earning the nickname the Gentle Don. Behind this facade, he sanctioned money laundering, extortion, and occasional murder to protect his interests. Bruno's worst crimes involved orchestrating hits on disloyal associates and opponents, ensuring minimal headlines by avoiding reckless violence. Despite repeated probes by the FBI, he sidestepped major convictions through diplomatic alliances and carefully managed rackets. Law enforcement found him difficult to nail, as witnesses feared retaliation and top lieutenants rarely cooperated. His empire stretched beyond Philadelphia into lucrative Atlantic City gambling interests, channeling steady revenue. Bruno never spent significant time in prison, continuing to oversee operations until his assassination on March 21, 1980, and final downfall. Even in death, he largely escaped legal consequences. Santo Trafficante Jr. Born in 1914, commanded Florida's Underworld and a network of casinos in Cuba, forging ties with influential mobsters nationwide. Known for a subdued demeanor, he quietly oversaw narcotics distribution and extortion rackets that generated massive profits. Despite multiple investigations and hearings, he skillfully avoided convictions, often frustrating prosecutors lacking solid evidence or cooperative witnesses. Trafficante's worst alleged crimes included financing assassination plots against political adversaries and sanctioning brutal murders to maintain power. Many believed he colluded with the CIA to eliminate Fidel Castro, although concrete proof never surfaced. He adeptly shielded himself through political contacts and coded communications. Although briefly detained after the Cuban Revolution, he escaped serious prison time in the United States. Trafficante died of heart disease on March 17, 1987, still free and unrepentant. Joseph Bonanno. Joseph Bonanno, born in 1905 in Sicily, led the Bonanno crime family with a calm demeanor that disguised a ruthless nature. He established extensive loan sharking and gambling rings, all while presenting himself as an upstanding community figure. Authorities found him exceptionally difficult to convict, partly because he vanished in 1964 amid a power struggle, fueling rumors of kidnapping or self-imposed exile. Bonanno's worst crimes included orchestrating hits on rivals and overseeing narcotics trafficking, which brought significant profits. He also cultivated political connections, creating a protective shield around his operations. Despite occasional legal scrutiny, he never served lengthy prison sentences, relying on strategic alliances, tight secrecy, and intimidation. Ultimately, Bonanno settled in Arizona, where he died of heart failure on May 11, 2002, at age 97, having truly escaped serious incarceration. Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky, born in 1902 in Belarus, became an infamous financial mastermind behind the American Mafia. Partnering with Lucky Luciano and Bugsy Siegel, he revolutionized money laundering through offshore accounts and intricate bookkeeping. Authorities tried repeatedly to convict him for racketeering and tax evasion, yet he skillfully concealed his dealings. Lansky's worst crimes involved overseeing gambling empires in Las Vegas and Cuba, sanctioning hits on rivals, and amassing millions through illicit casinos. Despite intense federal scrutiny, he avoided long prison terms by employing top attorneys and leveraging political connections. When indicted in 1970, Lansky fled to Israel, seeking sanctuary under its law of return. Eventually extradited to the United States, he still dodged significant convictions. He died of lung cancer in Miami Beach on January 15, 1983, never truly imprisoned. Carlo Gambino. Carlo Gambino, born in Palermo, Sicily, in 1902, became one of New York's most powerful mob bosses without enduring serious prison time. He quietly seized firm control of the Gambino crime family after the 1957 assassination of Albert Anastasia, favoring a subdued style over flashy violence. His syndicate profited heavily from loan sharking, extortion, and labor racketeering, generating millions across multiple boroughs. Authorities found it nearly impossible to secure a lasting conviction, thanks to his low profile and strategic use of frontmen. Despite numerous investigations, he avoided significant jail terms, often due to frightened witnesses and expertly concealed financial dealings. Gambino's worst crimes included orchestrating hits on rivals and manipulating unions for personal gain. He died peacefully at home on October 15, 1976, having entirely evaded any substantial legal reckoning. Tony Accardo. Tony Accardo, born in Chicago in 1906, was a key figure in the infamous Chicago outfit, serving as Al Capone's enforcer before rising to boss. He earned his nickname Joe Batters by using a baseball bat to handle disloyalty. Under his leadership, the outfit expanded into illegal gambling, loan sharking, and racketeering, netting millions. Authorities struggled to prosecute him because he preferred stealth, delegating violent tasks and maintaining political clout. Despite repeated indictments, Accardo never spent significant time behind bars, outmaneuvering law enforcement through strategic alliances and loyalty. His worst crimes included orchestrating some murders and coordinating extortion operations. Eventually, Accardo died peacefully on May 22, 1992, at his home in Barrington, Illinois, having eluded any substantial prison term and continuing to influence underworld dealings despite decades under intense federal scrutiny. Frank Matthews. Frank Matthews, born in 1944, reigned as one of America's biggest drug traffickers during the early 1970s, controlling a vast heroin and cocaine empire. Known as Black Caesar, he allegedly managed operations spanning multiple states, raking in millions. Matthews's worst crimes included rumored murders of rivals and large-scale narcotics smuggling. He became a prime target of federal agents who seized valuable assets and prepared to indict him on major charges. In 1973, Facing mounting pressure, he fled with his girlfriend and an estimated $15 to $20 million in cash. Despite exhaustive searches, he was never located, sparking endless theories about his fate. Speculation ranged from plastic surgery to cartel retribution. Remarkably, Matthews spent no significant time behind bars, completely vanishing without a trace and baffling law enforcement for decades.